welcome to Oakville Matters. Today, with the panel that we've got, we're going to examine what's going on with Downtown Oakville. Downtown Oakville faces a need to replace the roadbed and the sewer pipes, and the penalty for not replacing those before they fail could be very unpleasant. And the difficulty with that is that there really is no good time for business to be disrupted. We've learned that, because we've tried to pick a time for many years now that suits everybody, but we've learned that during a recession is a very bad time to disrupt business by digging up the main street of our historic business district. And during recovery is a bad time to disrupt the street. So what we've come to now is a very, very extensive discussion that's gone on for close to 2 years now about how to do this in the way that will benefit the town and the businesses the best. And it boils down to this. When we get done replacing the roadbed and the pipes under the road, we can put the surface back the way it is now, only new, or we can put a surface on that looks differently and perhaps performs differently and perhaps attracts more people than the one we have now. We could have more trees, we could have wider sidewalks, we could have a different configuration for the street. So before we go to the panel, let's take a look at two pictures that show exactly what we're talking about. We'll start with an aerial view of the downtown that gives you an overview of the grid of streets that's down there now, and it's unlikely to change. And then we'll go through to a picture of Lakeshore as our staff have reimagined it to try to make it way more attractive and attract more customers for our businesses on Main Street. Lakeshore, if you will. And you'll notice in this vision there are far more trees of a much healthier nature than what we have there now, and that would be due to the necessary infrastructure beneath the street to keep them alive, silva soil and water and air. And you also saw there sharrows to make it possible for cars and bikes to share the road, and you saw parking, and you saw a slightly wider sidewalk that would permit more activity on the sidewalk. There are competing views, and we'll get into those now as we talk about it with our panel. The panel today includes Councillor Dave Gittings. Dave is the councillor for the area. He's not only a council member for the town of Oakville, he's also a council member for the region of Halton. And we also have Sharlene Plewman, and Sharlene lives in the south central part of town, very close to downtown, and she is the executive director of the Downtown Business Improvement Area, and a very active member of the BIA and a very successful business owner, not just in Oakville, but across the province, is Bruce Miller, who would like to be described as co-owner of the works, and he'd also like you to drop in for one of his spicy burgers. Am I right?
Absolutely.
So now, let's get started. If anything illustrates the way council likes to do extensive consultation before it makes a decision, and the way that can produce people who want more consultation, because I'm very aware of people who are kind of coming just now to the discussion and going, well, wait, it's too fast, we want more time. But we also have people who go, this has been going on for 6 or 7 years now, just make a damn decision and get on with it. So Sharlene, you have the pulse of the business community with your 400 members. What's your sense of that divide?
I think you're correct. There is a divide, certainly, and it's a hard one to bridge. I think the commonality, though, between it all is that they want to see some answers of how there's going to be some certainty in the timing, and answers in how they're going to be taken care of during this. As you said, there's no good time for construction to disrupt business. And so I think that's where the commonality is. Whether there needs to be more discussion, less discussion, they all agree there needs to be some consistency when the times are decided, and some support to see them through what might be a tough time.
So, Bruce, you recently floated an idea. It was more than an idea in your mind. I think it was more like a demand. But let's put aside what to call it. Around this certainty idea, you want to describe what you were asking for?
Yeah, I mean, currently the state in downtown Oakville at vacancy rates of almost 20% is at a historic high. And we need to get those stores back and filled with great retailers, which are going to help to be able to draw those guests and consumers back into the street. The problem that we're in now is that we're a bit half pregnant, because when the landlords are trying to lease out those spaces, prospective clients that are coming in are saying, great, downtown Oakville will be fabulous, but wait a second, I understand there's going to be 2 years of construction. And I'm not going to sign a 5-year lease with 2 years of those being under construction. So the idea that I was floating, less of a demand, just an idea, is to be able to say, make a quick decision on actually giving a firm timeline to not do any construction before a certain date, i.e. beyond that 5-year date, is to be able to say, we need to do this reconstruction, but let's do it at a time where the downtown core can survive a little better. We feel that the downtown core is a bit of the golden goose of Oakville, and that right now the patient is on life support, and we feel that it's not the right time to be able to perform surgery on a patient when they are down and out. Allow some time for them to recover, and then once they're back into that recovery period, to then go through surgery when they're healthier. So if you're able to be able to put a timeline to be able to say, landlords and prospective clients, we will not do any of this construction before 5 years, it allows the landlords to be able to go to prospective clients saying, come to downtown Oakville. In the next 5 years, there will be no construction or disruption to your business. Please sign a 10-year lease, so that, sure, within the 5 to 10-year period, there'll be a year and a half there that there'll be some construction. But that's okay. You can feel confident your first 5 years is going to be secure.
So there's a bit of a note of optimism crept into what you said. You started at 2 years of disruption and ended at a year and a half, which I think is wishful thinking. It's a 2-year pain. I don't think there's a way we know to make it differently. So to translate that into plain terms for everyone, it's 2015. If we gave a 5-year definitive target, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't rebuild the street until 2020. And you might like it even better, since we're partway through 2015, if we said it's 2021, the pain is 2021 through 2022, those 2 years, and in 2023, all those wonderful visions that we're showing come true, and if other places are any guide, business goes up. Is that basically what you're looking for?
Absolutely. But with the addition of, during that period of time, to help the recovery, it's not only to be able to attract great retailers. We need retailers that are everyday traffic. We need everyday traffic in downtown Oakville. So great retailers that would bring in grocery or bring in a pharmacy, where people can come and get their errands done in downtown Oakville. It will say, oh, well, why don't we stay for dinner, or why don't we go shopping at the same time? And as well, we know through past studies that the city has done is that we have a parking problem a parking opportunity in downtown Oakville. We need to be able to increase the parking spots within downtown Oakville. And I know that in front of Town Council right now is a proposal to be able to do a great parking garage. So let's allow the time for that parking garage to be built between now and then, so that we're still revitalizing and making that patient a whole lot healthier leading up to that 5-year timeline.
You remind me of a man who worked for me when I was in business, who used to always greet the news that there was a problem as he would always relabel it, that's just an opportunity in work clothes, he would say. So I guess that's the school you come from.
Absolutely.
So Dave, in terms of the residents that you represent as well as the businesses, what's your take on the best path forward?
I talk to residents every day, and they all share the same concern in terms of the health and the vibrancy of downtown Oakville. In terms of moving forward, Bruce, you're absolutely right. You just highlighted our agenda for our April 13th meeting of council, where hopefully we'll be bringing closure. We've timed out on a couple of meetings, and so April 13th, I think we'll be moving forward. Surety has a huge benefit on this in terms of, as you said, give the landowners and the renters an opportunity to know when it's coming. You mentioned the parking garage. That would be a huge asset in terms of not just during construction. However, afterwards. We aren't talking about the cultural hub today, but there are some incredible plans for downtown Oakville. We're feeling the challenges, and I'm pretty confident that April 13th we're going to be happy.
Well, Dave, I'm not sure we're going to settle everything on April 13th, and in case we're being broadcast after the 13th, I'm not sure we will have settled everything on the 13th. But we'll certainly be taking a direction. I'm confident that we'll be authorizing the design engineering work for the below the surface. I'm not sure we'll pick the surface. When in our second segment of today's show, I'd like to talk about the different surface treatments that we're looking at. But before we think about that, let's zero back on the 5-year idea, the 5 or 6 years out deal. So let me be sure. 6 years out would be as welcome, or maybe more than 5 years out, or what?
It's literally just in today's climate, to be able to sign a lease, the tradition is 5 years or 10 years. So that's where the magic of the 5 years comes in, is that whether it's 5 years or 6 years, it's not as important. It's to be able to say not before that 5-year period.
So if we gave a reasonable amount of time for people to be going out and seeking and getting leases, you'd count from, say, next year, and 2021 would be the horizon.
Correct.
All right. That's good clarity for me. Now, here's the killer question. Council doesn't like to do things that people don't want done. And you make a compelling case for the path that you're describing. But I've never known a meeting of downtown businesses to agree unanimously on anything. What's your sense of the willingness of the community that you represent, Sharlene, to support that path? 50-50, 2-to-1, not at all? What can you tell us?
Right.
And P.S., you will have had these questions on April 13th, too.
I think there's a strong contingency that wants to see that certainty that Bruce is speaking about. I think there is also a large group that wants to see some things happening now, and I think we can find a happy medium. We look at what's going to go on top. Well, there's things that can go on top now to start to beautify the area without disruption. We can have more beautiful garbage cans, we can have more beautiful flower pots, things like that, to start to say, let's bring some of that vibrancy that we're excited about for the streetscape, that people who want it to happen now, so that that beautiful streetscape is done sooner, can start to see and realize ahead of the game. And I think that would bridge that happy medium, so we wouldn't have to worry about 50 pitted against the other 50.
All right, well, let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll pursue the question of what the surface treatment of the downtown street should be, the main street. And then I'll come back at you one more time on when should the disruption be, now or later. Although I do have a sense that the majority of the businesses would always vote for later. And I guess the amount of later, I guess this is me saying I kind of like Bruce's idea. We'll be right back, and I hope you'll join us as we consider what will matter to Oakville here for the downtown streetscape. Thank you for coming back with us. Now we get to talk about what we're going to do or might do to the surface of the downtown streetscape. I kind of sketched, I think together the panel and I discussed the disruption of the construction to rebuild the roadbed and the sewer pipes and everything, which we all realize needs to be done. And now we get to talk about how do we put back the surface after we're done. I thought it'd be helpful if we took another look at the streetscape view that the staff are recommending, and I hope that that can be put up now, and there you go. So while we leave this up, let me just call your attention to the increased amount of green in the form of more and healthier street trees. And I want you to notice that the surface of the street is different between the travel lanes and the parking lanes for more visual interest. And if you look on the sides, you can see that there's more street activity, more patio-like events happening there. You can see people seated. And this is meant to draw your attention to the fact that that area is a little bit wider than before. So that we have, we're building on all the best things from the past, and we're trying to make it overall more attractive and prettier. It used to be that it was said that our downtown was the prettiest downtown in all of Ontario, and I know that over the last few years we've had a lot of competition, and I'm also very aware that if we put our street back this way, we will again be the best. So, Sharlene, let's start with you. What's your sense of the will of the members that you represent? This is the staff recommended option. There are others, and what do you think we will have heard from your members?
Yeah, I think in terms of the staff recommendation versus the others, they're pleased with what the staff is putting forward in terms of the parking staying on Lakeshore, the idea of bigger trees, the fact that you could get the canopy a little bit higher with those bigger trees so their signs show, the concept of patios or other merchandising space is appealing to them. So those are all some of the things I'm hearing that they're liking about the plan.
Now, we heard these things as desired outcomes from your members as we consulted extensively over the last year or so on this. Do people recognize that they've been listened to and that they've been heard? And you know, we never believe we've been listened to unless we get our way. Are people feeling that they're getting some of what they asked for, Bruce?
Having been part of many of those meetings over the last couple of years, I would say absolutely. The town has done a great job to be able to reach out, to be able to have morning meetings, afternoon meetings, evening meetings, to be able to make sure that anybody can come that wants to give inputs. And certainly those that had their opinions have come and given their opinions. To be able to get 400 people to be able to agree on anything in terms of business owners is a tough one. But I do believe, and I agree with Sharlene, is that the plan that the town has brought forward is in fact the best that we can get in terms of consensus. We do like the idea of making it more appealing in terms of having a whole bunch of patios in downtown Oakville. You know, we often get a dialogue that at 6 o'clock at night the streets of downtown Oakville roll up. And you know, especially within those summer months, patios are a great way to be able to attract people and keep them and retain them into a downtown core like Oakville.
So at some expense to yourself, you piloted one of these mini patios. And what was your verdict? Is it a repeatable exercise? Are you going to do it again?
We were happy to do the pilot last year. By the time we got it open, it wasn't actually until midsummer, so I can only give you the midsummer to end of summer numbers, but we did see an increase in our sales that we can attribute just to the patio. And so we do feel that it's a repeatable program. To be able to repeat it, though, the town council was very kind to be able to make sure that the permit fees weren't all that high, and you know, to be able to have it again repeated, we would need to be able to see that break on fees, because the proposed fees originally that came through from the town council would simply be too high. I've spoken to a bunch of the restaurateurs that were thinking of doing it, and when they were brought forward in terms of what the in lieu of parking fees would be, that they wouldn't be able to afford it. And so as long as town council is willing to be able to continue that pilot, which was originally for 3 years, then yes, I think it's absolutely something that's repeatable.
So the preferred outcome is definitely the wider sidewalks, so that you don't have to take out a parking spot. Then I conclude from what you said.
Well, I mean, the ideal state is no fees, whether it's getting rid of parking or not is up to the town. From a business owner standpoint, to have the wider sidewalks and also to have parking spaces for our guests and consumers to come right to the front of the shops, then yes, that's absolutely the ideal state.
All right. So now, when you look at the streetscape and the amount of space, it's fixed. We only have the space we have between the facing building fronts, and so staff have compromised to get every use its day. You know, it's every use gets its space, and I suppose you could criticize that any one particular use isn't as much as its proponents might want. That would be a fair I think, Dave, you might agree that'd be a fair summary of the situation on that.
We have limited space. I think one of the best outcomes is when you look at the picture of Lakeshore, there's no trucks going to be parked in the middle. It'll allow the commercial loading zones to be on the up-down or the north-south streets, as we call them. And that will allow people to look across and enjoy the aesthetics of downtown. In terms of the bike lanes, we've had rich discussion on that. And with Robinson and Church in the preferred scenario, it's about 75 paces to the north and to the south. They're formal bike lanes, and it provides safe passage for cyclists like myself, and also it preserves over 100 prime parking spaces on Lakeshore, which I think is incredibly important to the shopkeepers and to the BIA.
So, Dave, what's more important, bike lanes to the downtown or bike lanes in the downtown?
Well, one of the difficulties is at this time we don't have bike lanes formalized running east or west out of downtown. We will get those as part of our active transportation master plan. But at this point, I think Church and Robinson would serve us very well.
All right. So now, Bruce and Sharlene, in terms of what you see there, would merchants prefer to give up any parking, like a row of parking, to get even wider sidewalks? Is, you know, have you guys carefully looked at because what's happened is the center lane's been taken and distributed between, on two sides of the street to give you wider sidewalks. You have most of half of a lane added to your sidewalk space. But I've heard some people say that doesn't maximize the possibility, and that if you would give up parking, you could have even broader boulevards. What's the business view?
Go ahead. Do you want to go ahead?
From a business owner standpoint, there were a whole bunch of options put in front of us, and that to be able to keep the parking there is absolutely crucial. Is that, you know, there are times when you can bike down to downtown Oakville. I do it myself, but there's also times, like in the winter, where, you know, the community of Oakville, we need to be able to take our cars down, and sometimes it's just more practical. So to be able to have the bike lanes on the side streets, we agree is the right way to go, and we think that it's a nice blend of keeping the parking as is, widening the sidewalks so that merchants can have their merchandising outside as well as patios, but without getting rid of the parking right in front of the shops.
So, Sharlene, I guess what staff are suggesting, I could maybe word as, we all agree we need to make the downtown more walkable. I've often heard the walkability of downtown praised, and often in the second breath, it'd be nice if it was even more walkable. This clearly increases the walkability. Your members' feeling is that that's enough? That will do it?
I think so, because what we also hear from our customers is that they need convenience. We had a wonderful workshop on Wednesday talking about how we can make things better in downtown and looking at some of the marketing aspects of it. And convenience rang through loud and clear of what customers are looking for these days, and I think that speaks to needing to have convenient parking options. We have several parking lots, but they also find parking on the street is a level of convenience that we know our customers are looking for. In fact, I would agree very much with the sentiment that we do need some bike lanes to get people to the downtown versus the focus of the 6 blocks of downtown, to the point that, you know, we're speaking right now primarily of Lakeshore, and we've touched on the dedicated bike lanes on Church and Robinson. There's even discussion, could they also be sharrows? If people are on sharrows getting to the downtown, would they not be comfortable to stay on a sharrow for those 6 blocks? Because we are sacrificing some parking on those streets, and there are merchants on those streets as well that we need to consider. So I think what I've heard loud and clear is the convenience for our customers is what we're looking to maximize and maintain, and that with keeping as much parking on street, both on the side streets and the main street, with the addition of the slightly wider sidewalks, we can always do something if we need even wider sidewalks in those summer months, similar to the pilot project that Bruce did. If there was consistency where we know this is what we're going to do in the summer, the patios are going to look this way, so there doesn't have to be any concern about appearance, we can steal a couple parking spaces where appropriate in the summer months, like we're doing now, if we feel we need it even wider at times.
Okay. So Dave, one of the things that I think you and I have discussed, and a concern we share, is that over time, because we couldn't provide parking to businesses for their employees when they grew, and many businesses set up in downtown and enjoy a remarkable and wonderful success, they come to us looking for all-day parking for their employees. We can't provide it, and we lose them. And my sense is that our downtown, the first thing that we lost in terms of its vitality was the businesses that have workers downtown, not the retail shops, but rather the offices and the commercial enterprises that gave vitality and customers through the day part. And that's why I've been supporting so strongly building a new parking garage so that we could restore that part of our town's economic health. What's your sense of people's willingness to contemplate that? You know, it's a $23 million capital project, and it's true that we space capital projects out over years, but they compete with each other. And where does it sit in your sense in terms of priority?
Well, in terms of the capital budget, that'll be a discussion for this fall. For the parking garage, there are hundreds of shopkeepers and business people on the waiting list right now for a parking permit. As I mentioned earlier, having the parking garage there, which could well contain retail, it could contain something on the roof of a retail nature, and it builds for the future in terms of the cultural hub study. Personally, I think it's an incredibly important piece of the puzzle.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. I appreciate all the help that everyone's done today to illuminate this. This is a project that's going to occupy the town for the next several years, and it's really important that everyone stay involved, because if anything matters in Oakville, our downtown does. Thanks for being with us today.